Barak Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Part 3, The Importance of the Origins of Words. And in this lesson, Lord's will, we're going to explore the word mark in the Old Testament. And if we have time, we'll also go through the word hell in the Old Testament just to get a few pointers on that. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm looking for something real quick. Forgot to grab this before we got started. All right, cool. All right, so the first part that we're going to deal with is the word mark and its different applications in the Old Testament. And the very first time it appears is in the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter, the infamous, mark of Cain. Now, if you haven't read the story of Cain and Abel, I suggest you read it and get familiar with it so you could understand what took place and the reason why the Most High put this mark on Cain. All right, which would be a mark that the Most High put on him prior to him having this mark put on him. He was a brown-skinned man like everybody else. The Most High set that mark upon him to distinguish him from everybody else. It was a sign. Because you have these non-spiritual individuals that say, well, if Esau is the white man, he got with he got with Canaanite women and he got with Arab women, Ishmaelite women. So that means that his babies would have came out all brown skinned. So then that kills your... No. Do you understand divine power? Do you understand spiritual things? Obviously not. Because if the Most High put a mark on Cain, if he put a mark on Esau, no matter what happens, no matter what the mixture is, somewhere down the line, it's going to all come back. It's still going to be identified with that so-called race. And then the other ones that look brown or whatever the case may be, those are the tares that the scriptures speak about. In the case of Israelites, it's not that hard. But if you're not a spiritual man, if you're a carnal man, you're not going to receive the things of the Spirit. So by you saying that the Most High put a mark on Cain or put the mark on Esau, and then when they got with these dark women, that mark was done away with, then you're limiting the Most High's power. Even them demonic Mormons, as bugged out as they are, they understand the concept of the mark, because they try to put that same spin that the scriptures speak about in the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter on Cain. They try to put it on the Lamanites, which they call the so-called North American Indians. And because they sinned against the Most High, the Lord put a skin of darkness upon them. So what they teach in Mormonism is that to have brown skin is a curse. And if you do the right thing, then you'll be white again. You'll be that pure lily white. When all along it's looking like a so-called white person, that's the curse. Looking like a so-called white person, that's the oddball, the ones that the Lord don't like. Now, as crazy as it is, you even have Israelites around the world that look like so-called white people, just to show you the power and the magnitude of the Most High, and the way that he deals, and the power that he has, and the ability to, in the midst of the people or cursed people, have his own children looking like that, just to prove a point and to show his power, to make his power known, because no one has resisted the will of the Most High. So let's get into it. When you read through the story of Cain and Abel, Cain was the wicked one, of course. Abel was the righteous one. The word Cain from the Hebrew word kwayan means stabbing weapon, or a weapon, like a sword, a stabbing weapon. When you go to the blue letter, it's not going to break it down. They go off. And the word Abel comes from the Hebrew word habal, which means transitory, which they don't break that down either, because he was here for a moment and gone, and that's how life is. So what happened? They both brought a sacrifice to the Most High. Abel brought the righteous sacrifice of animals. Cain brought the wicked sacrifice of fruit. And the Most High had respect unto Abel. He didn't have respect unto Cain. Cain got mad, rose up, and slew his brother Abel. All right? And the Most High inquired of him, because the Lord already knew what happened. He inquired of him what happened to his brother. And he said, am I my brother's keeper? This is where you get that famous term from, am I my brother's keeper? And he asked him, what happened to your brother? He said, am I my brother's keeper? He lied. He didn't tell the Most High what happened, but the Lord already knew. And what happened? The Lord cursed Cain. Right? Genesis 4:10, he said, what hast thou done? It says, the voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. Because once Cain slew Abel, Abel's body dropped. His spirit went right before the Most High and started accusing Cain. He said, look, that dude right there, he's the one that did it. Which the Lord already knew anyway. But, that's how it goes down. It says, and now art thou cursed from the earth, right? And they are the cursed people of the earth. Today they came back as the Edomites. This is why the scriptures say that the Edomites are the nation upon whom the Lord has indignation forever. It's a perpetual hatred, and indignation, which is righteous anger that the Most High has against these people that he created. And he created them as such. The wicked are created for the day of vengeance, for the day of wrath. Isaiah 34:5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. This is dealing with the actual heavens in the sky. Because when the Lord comes back, Yahushua comes back, he's coming back to do war. Him and the angels are coming back to do war with Esau and the other nations in the air. That's going to be that battle in heaven. Not in the spiritual realm. The heavens be in the sky. There are three forms of heavens. Behold, it shall come down. Because Yahushua is coming down upon Idumea. The Most High is going to rain on you honkies. It says, and upon the people, not the man, the people of my curse to judgment. Now this is twofold. Curse as in being the cursed the way they look. That was a direct curse from the Most High. And also cursed because they've been set aside for judgment. They are the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. So the Most High is going to destroy them utterly. They are the only nation that has not been promised any form of mercy from the Most High, because they were set up as the accursed thing, the thing set aside for a sacrifice. That's why the Lord said there's going to be a sacrifice in Basra. All right, so this is the people of the Lord's curse to what? To judgment, because they were established for judgment. So when we go back to Genesis 4:11, and now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield thee her strength. And we see that. Look at the earth today and look at the ability. When we read the scriptures, it tells us that it took 2 strong men to carry a cluster of grapes. Now a baby can carry a cluster of grapes. It shows you how much the earth has degenerated. And that was a direct curse that the Most High put first on Adam and then on Cain. All right. It says, a fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. What is a fugitive? A fugitive is one that flees from justice, commits crimes, but he's always on the run. Never gets caught. But eventually the Lord said he will not at all acquit the wicked. They acquit themselves, but the Most High will not acquit them. A vagabond. What is a vagabond? A traveler, a wanderer. He moves from place to place. Why? Because they're trying to avoid being caught and being brought to justice. And also that was the way the Lord set them up. This is why when you read further down, it says that Cain was driven from the garden, right? He was driven from that area that he was at, and he went to the land of Nod, which is the Hebrew word Nawad. Now, there's no such place as the land Nod. The word Nod or Nawad just simply means to wander. So he pretty much wandered. The Lord moved him. He wandered off. All right. Shall thou be in the earth. And we see that today because this is synonymous with Esau. Although all of the descendants of Cain were destroyed during the flood, they came back through a baby named Esau. All right. And we see that they are the ones that are wandering around the earth. Who else is doing what these devils do around the earth? Nobody. They did it as the Greeks. They did it as the Romans, as the Spanish, the French, all of those different Edomite nations, them 7 empires. The Russians are not a part of the 7. All right. They are all over the place. Why? Because that's the spirit the Lord put upon them. You can read Psalms, the 73rd chapter goes into it. It speaks about it, how they go out, their tongue walketh throughout the earth. They go around doing what? Pretty much gathering the resources of the earth prior to the blessing given to them by Isaac to his son Esau, that that they will have the fatness of the earth pretty much through the sword. Shall thou be in the earth? And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. It says, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And this is why you show favor to the wicked, and they will not be, they will not learn righteousness. This is why it says that the wicked are estranged from the womb. As soon as they're born wicked. Why? Because in the spirit, they are the wicked. This is why the 2 babies, Jacob and Esau, are fighting in the womb, because those are 2 opposing forces, righteousness and wickedness, and they don't get along. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. But the Lord didn't want Cain to be slayed, eventually as he came back as Esau, because they had a mission to fulfill. And the Lord said unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him 7-fold. And this is why when you kill an Edomite, they throw the book at you. But if you kill another Jake, you get out quick. You don't do lifetimes. But if you kill an Edomite, that protection, so to speak, that the Lord put upon them so that they wouldn't be removed off the face of the earth, falls upon Jake when they kill these Edomites. And the Lord said, a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. So what is that mark? Let's go to the word mark here. And this is why it's important to go to the origins of words. Not every word that you see in the English that says mark means the same thing. So mark, awath, sign, signal, a distinguishing mark. What was that distinguishing mark? It wasn't 666, because 666 didn't exist during this time in the Garden of Eden. The 666 mark didn't exist. It wasn't even spoken about. That wouldn't come till thousands of years later in the future. So what is this distinguishing mark? That was leprosy that was put upon them. This is why those Mormons, those bugged out Mormons, use the same analogy on the reverse side as saying to have a brown skin, or what they call black skin, which is really brown, different shades of brown, is to be cursed. And that is a direct sign that you sinned against God. This is what they teach, because they're trying to flip it. They're trying to spiritually flip it, inside joke, and trying to put the curse upon us, from the darkest brown brother to the lightest brown brother. But in the essence, it's really them that's cursed with leprosy. But there are different types of leprosy. When you go through the book of Leviticus 13 and the 14th chapter, there are different types of leprosy. There are certain leprosies that are unclean. There are certain leprosies that are contagious. You have certain leprosies which is like mold, mildew on homes, and then you have something called, you have a lot of unclean leprosies, but then you have something called clean leprosy, or a clean leper. And that's what Esau is. He's a clean leper. And when we read Leviticus 13 and 12, it says, and if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, which Esau is the people of the Lord's curse, And the leprosy cover all the skin of him that had the plague, from his head even to his foot, meaning completely so-called white. Wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, like you'll see Jake with blotches. Some parts of their skin look whitish, and some parts of their skin still have the pigment on. That's unclean leprosy. And eventually what happens is, once that leprosy covers the whole skin and all the brown is gone and it looks all so-called white, then it says, he shall pronounce him clean, he that hath the plague. It is all turned white. He is clean. So this is why Esau is a clean leper. See? And that's why you can be around them, shake their hand and all that, and not be contaminated. Because they are clean lepers. And that is the mark that was put upon them. And the Lord put that upon them as a what? As a sign. So now you have these ninjas out here that are trying to limit the power of the Most High. I said, well, look, Cain got with brown-skinned women. Esau got with Canaanite women and Ishmaelite women. So that means that their babies came out. So that killed. No. You're trying to limit the Most High's power. Just like you can have two so-called black people get together, a man and a woman, get together and have babies, and you can have twins. One baby will come out brown looking like his parents, and the other baby come out looking like a so-called white person. What do you think that is? That's the power of the Most High. So you don't think that the Most High has the power to keep that curse on these devils that he put upon them? You don't think the Most... Well, you know what? Oh, man, I forgot about that. Shit. Now I got to go back to the drawing board. I made Cain white because, that's the curse. But I didn't think about, him getting with dark women. This all was at the time out there. And then all of the babies coming out dark. Shit. Now I got to go back to the drawing board. What can I do? Maybe if he drinks milk, maybe all the babies will turn white. Or maybe they'll go get a milk bath like my man, like the watermelon man, trying to get that white skin back. You guys are trying to limit the Most High's power. So that's that sign. All right. So you have this particular mark, which is a sign. All right. Which is something that a distinguishing mark. All right. Now, when we go to the book of Ruth, matter of fact, let me see something. Let's go back to the word mark or wath. Let's see what it says down here. You got a lot of scriptures that use that word, but it comes out as signs. See, signs, a sign. So that was a sign, a distinguishing mark upon Cain to distinguish who the wicked are, pretty much. Now, when we go to the book of Ruth, right, the 3rd chapter, now this Ruth, which was the daughter-in-law of Naomi, right, she was told to go to Boaz, her kindred, and go to be pretty much to be with him because he was the nearest kin to Naomi, her husband, and her sons that were dead, that were put to death. Right? So when we read Ruth 3 and 4, it says, and it shall be when he lieth down, in other words, go to his tent, and when he lies down, that thou shalt what? Mark the place where he shall lie. And thou shalt go in and uncover his feet and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. So when we look up this word mark is a different mark from the sign or distinguishing mark that was put upon Cain. And this is why we're going to what? To the Hebrew. In this case, this is called the Aramaic. This is the Aramaic writing or the Syrian writing, right? Which goes back to Aram, one of the sons of Shem, right? And then you have the Paleo Hebrew, or the Lashuan Kodash, which are the same letters, but in a different form, all right? And when we go to the word mark, you have the word what? Yadai. Now, what does the word Yadai mean? It means to know or knowledge, right? To know. to know, learn how, to perceive. So in other words, when you go, you perceive, or you mark. When he lays down, you lay down next to him. You mark the spot where he is, and or acknowledge the part, or recognize, as it says here, the spot where he lays down, and you lay down there with him. Now they didn't have sex that night because he was a righteous man, so he had to get down to the bottom of this whole thing. This is why he told her to rise up early and leave, because they would have thought that he popped her, which he didn't. All right. So when we go down here, you're gonna see that the word Yadai is no. The Most High of no, and they knew, meaning they understood. So understand where he go and mark that spot, so that it goes into the word knowledge or knew. All right. So that's pretty much it on that. Just to show you that there's, just in those two verses, that there's there's a distinction between the words mark. Now, when we go to 1 Samuel chapter 20, this is King David and Jonathan, and this was when King David knew that King Saul, actually David, he wasn't king yet. David knew that King Saul wanted to do him harm, right? And they were making a pact between him and Jonathan because they were knit in the spirit. They wasn't, happy people. They were brothers that had a deep love for each other, brotherly love. Fucking devils, man. Shit makes you mad. Anyway, 1 Samuel 20:1. And David fled from Naioth in Ramah, and came and said before Jonathan, what have I done? What is mine iniquity? And what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life? Right? Because he just wanted to know, what did I do wrong? But it wasn't anything that he did wrong. It was just that Saul knew that King David was going to take his place, that he was going to get the kingdom. And he said unto him, Most High forbid, thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will do nothing, either great or small, but that he will show it me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. What verse? Trying to get to the point. And let me see. Let me just do it this way. Here we go. So this was a pact that they had. And he says, and this is part of the pact. And this is Jonathan. It says, and I will shoot the 3 arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. Right? Now when we go here, what is that word mark? The word there is matarah. As you see, it's a different word in the Hebrew. All right? You had the word awath for Cain. You had the word Yadai for Ruth. And here you had the word matarah. Now what does matarah mean? The ma is of or from because it's separate, because here goes the word natar, So the ma is, and then the tarah is separate. So the word is what? Guard, ward, prison, mark, target. So it could be a guard or it could be a target. In this case, he's talking about a target. Like you shoot an arrow at a target. So that's the mark, the target, because you've got the target and then you got your bow and arrow and you're shooting the arrow at the target. So that's a different form of mark. And when we go down and you see all of the related, scriptures that go along with it, it gives you, see, prison. Why did it say prison here? And over here it says mark or target? Because this would be the guard. You have a guard. Person is being guarded. But in this case, it's a mark or a target. It all depends. So sometimes it appears as prison. Sometimes it appears as a mark. A target. So you can have an actual physical target where you're shooting an arrow at, or you can have a person that's being targeted, like in the case of Job. He felt like he was being targeted by the Most High. All right? Which he was, but it was really Satan. But it was because it was a bet that the Most High had with Satan. So you see right there, just in those 3 verses, that the word mark is 3 different things so far. Now, let's move on from there. Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 13. And it's sorry to disappoint you, scoffers. This is going to be, boring. So I might want to go to another video. So 2 Samuel 13:28. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, Mark ye, now when Amnon's heart is merry with thee, and when I say unto you, smite Amnon, then kill him, fear not, have not I commanded you, be courageous and be valiant. So pretty much, this is what? Keep an eye on him. And when you see that he's married, that he's tipsy or drunk, now you roll and take him out. All right? So when we go there to this particular word, Mark, it's the word what? Ra'ah. Now what does the word ra'ah mean? It means to see or to look. Now this particular mark in the Hebrew, or ra'ah, is synonymous with the word scopeo or scopos in the New Testament, where it says, mark them which cause division and offenses contrary to the doctrine, and avoid them. Now that's the Greek equivalent. This is the Hebrew equivalent, ra'ah, which is to see, look, inspect, perceive, consider. So when you perceive him to be drunken and merry, then you roll up and take him out. You delete him, as my man says. Delete him. And when we scroll down to the related, and you see here, and the power saw the light, see, right? And it depends on where you're looking at. It's pretty much all to perceive, to scope out, to see. So that's what? 4 different times where the English word mark appears in the Old Testament, and there's 4 different definitions. So do you understand the reason why you have to go to the Hebrew, to the original writings, to get a better understanding, of what that means, of what each individual one means? Now let's go from there to the book of Job, chapter 33. And the verse is 31. It says, mark, this is the Most High speaking to Job. Mark well, O Job. I'm sorry, not the Most High. This is one of his friends. Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It was the Most High. No. Okay, yeah, this is one of his friends. I was trying to see which one, but you can find out, by reading. It says, mark well, O Job, hearken unto me, hold thy peace, and I will speak. So the word mark here, in this case, is the word koshab, the 5th example of a different word in the Hebrew for the English word mark. So you see why you can't just go by the English. They can't break their doctrine down into English. They got to go to the Paleo Hebrew or to the Koine Greek. Yeah, because when you look at a word in the English, sometimes it means different definitions depending on what it says in the Hebrew or the Greek. This is why when you go to the English dictionary and you look up certain words, they'll give you a plethora of different definitions, such as the word world or the word mark or other words. So you have to go back to the original or the origins of the language so you can get a better understanding of what's being said. Koshab, to hear, be attentive, heed, incline of ears. Right. So in this case, it's listening. Or mark well, listen good to what I'm telling you. In the other case, it was look, scope, pay attention. And this one is give ear, listen good, mark well. All right, pay attention, listen up, listen. Now when we scroll down, once again, you have the different places in scripture where the same word is used as hearken, which means to listen. All right, now let's go back. So you see why you just can't go to each one of these words and just, mark, okay, this is the mark here that says mark there, and that's it. Close the book. Close the book. All right, now let's go to Psalms 37, and then I got one more after that. Mark 37 and 37, which this is one of Apostle Gabar's favorite scriptures. Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright. For the end of that man is what? Peace. So what does this word mark mean? The word shamar, which means to watch. The word shamar means to watch. In some cases, the word shamar is used as a protection, a watching over. If I'm not mistaken, we could leave this here. Let's go to Psalms 121. I don't remember for sure. Will lift up my eyes to the hill, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel will not slumber nor sleep. The Lord, all right here, keeper. The Lord is thy keeper. And what do we have for the word keeper? Shamar. Means to watch, the watcher or the keeper. The guardian. As they say, guardian angels. Or the Lord has guardian angels among the elect. Which Psalms 34 and 7 says that the angels of the Lord encamp around them that fear him to deliver them. All right, to observe. See? So the word shamar here is mark the perfect man. In other words, watch the perfect man. Behold the perfect man. Observe the perfect man. Keep your eyes on him. And look to see, what happens to this man for being a righteous man. Observe him. Similar to the word ra'ah, to look, but it's in the sense of keeping guard. You're keeping guard because you're being vigilant of this man. And the word vigilant means to be on guard, pretty much. All right, to keep guard, keep watch and ward, protect, save life. Right. So watch this man, mark him. Why? And behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace. That's why King David said, and others, and I believe in Ecclesiasticus, it says, have any ever trusted in the Lord, has ever been confounded? And the answer to that is no. Because when you look at these different examples of our forefathers that went and trusted in the Lord, even though they went through hardships and hard times and lost a lot of things, eventually in the long run, what happened? They were delivered. They were protected. They were, given a hedge from the Most High. All right, so that's 6 different times we looked up the word mark in the Old Testament, and it had 6 different Hebrew words. This is why, depending on what the point is, where you're going with it, you have to find out. You can't just go and link all those scriptures together and say it all means the same thing. Because it doesn't. Now, the final one in dealing with the word mark is in Ezekiel, the 9th chapter, because they try to go to the scripture here. Y'all know who I'm talking about. And they try to say that this connects with Revelation 13. Because this word we're going to read here is a spiritual thing. But the M-A-R-K, which is in a different language in the New Testament, Greek, is something that's physical. This is something that's spiritual. You see? So, yeah, like for instance, like the brother said, Job 22:15, hast thou marked the old way which wicked men have trodden? Right. And what was the end of that? What was the reward? Destruction. So Ezekiel 94, and the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads. See, the foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the M-A-R-K in their right hand or in their foreheads. See? Of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So what is a sensible thing to do? Look up the word mark. And when we look that word up, the word there in the Hebrew, once again, the 7th example, thawah, a totally different Hebrew word. And when we go down, it says desire, mark, mark as a sign of exemption from what? Judgment. So this is something that would be inside someone, like the eye salve in the book of Revelation 3. The eye salve is not something that's physical. The eye salve is something that's spiritual, given by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, sealed through Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bashem Rachakodash. Like Yahushai told Peter when he told him that he was the Messiah, the Son of the Most High, blessed are you, Peter, for flesh and blood have not revealed these things unto you, but my Father which is in heaven. You see? So this is a spiritual mark as opposed to the physical mark in the book of Revelation. Esau is not spiritual. Esau is, carnal. And those of you individuals that can't see this, that means that you're carnal. You're rolling in the same spirit that Esau rolls in. All right? You have the same mentality. You are connected to the serpent. That's a title for somebody right there. Connected to the serpent. All right, so that's it on that. Dealing with the MARK. Now, let's switch gears. Pop the clutch and switch gears. And let's go to the word hail. All right. Now, I only got two main examples. Something I wanted to, through the Spirit, I want to highlight, if the Spirit allows, of course. But you know what? Let's just type in the word hell. And it comes up first in Deuteronomy 32 and 22. Right? This one here, this is King David. Right. You know what? Let's go to this one. Because this hell, this is talking about the grave. All right, but we have to go to the actual Hebrew word, but there's another point that I want to get. You know what? Before we even do that, let's go to, because the word, like when you type in hell, matter of fact, let's do this. Let's type in, let's see how we could do this. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, let's see what this says here real quick. Hell, this English word from a Germanic root meaning concealed place or underworld. That's it. You could close a book right there, because that's exactly what it means. It means the grave. This is why when we read here in Job 26 and 6, hell is naked before him and destruction hath no covering. So in other words, hell, which is the grave, is naked before him, because when you bury somebody, let's say underground, you don't see that person. That's why they call it the netherworld or the underworld. You can't see it, but the Most High sees everything under there. There's nothing that's hidden from the Most High's eyes. All right? So it says hell, it says, is used by the KJV in the Old Testament to render Hebrew Sheol or Sha'al or Sha'awal. See Sheol. In the New Testament, it renders Greek Hades. Right? And Gehenna. And what I want to highlight, Lord's will, is the word Gehenna, because this is the origins of that whole hell doctrine. It goes back to Gehenna. All right? Now, Gehenna is pretty much a valley of the son of Hinnom. And there were a lot of situations going on there. Matter of fact, when we go to Gehenna, it says Valley of Hinnom. In the Greek New Testament, this name refers to the final place of punishment of the ungodly and is usually translated hell. Right. And it's just a word used for future judgment. because the Lord destroyed the earth, the first earth, by what? By water. And he's going to destroy the second earth by what? By fire. That's why when we go to 2 Peter chapter 3 and 7, but the heavens and the earth which are now, which are the governments, these empires of Esau, by the same word of the Most High, are kept in store. They being stored or set up for what? Reserved unto what? Fire, against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So this final destruction or final judgment is what Yahushua was referring to, and he was using Gehenna, which was where they would bring criminals, where the parents would bring children to be slaughtered, and to be set on fire to Molech. And they would play the drums and different instruments to drown out the cries of the children, so that the parents wouldn't feel, bad. And this is why when you go to the Bohemian Grove, the cremation of care, you had, the music playing when they so-called burning the effigy. Because that is the way that the demonic priests on the left-hand side would do it. They would play the drums, and played music so that it would drown out the cries of the victim that was being sacrificed. All right. So going back, it says the word derives from the Hebrew phrase for the valley of Ben Hinnom, Ben meaning son, identified with the Wadi El Rababi, that's what it's called today, just south and to the west of Jerusalem. This ravine formed part of the border between the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. It's giving you, where locations are at, and kings that, sacrifice their sons to Molech, Manasseh. And then we're going to get into this. For this reason, Josiah defiled the place, right? We're going to get into that, Lord's will, a little bit. As after referring to these idolatrous practices, Jeremiah prophesied a great slaughter of the people there and in Jerusalem, and that's what it all went back to. This was known no more. The Lord said, was it going to be called the Valley of Hinnom, but it was going to be called the Valley of Slaughter, because there was a great judgment that was brought upon the children of Israel for these wicked acts. And that's what Yahushua was using as an example of the future judgment or destruction that was coming in the future for those that were disobedient to the Most High. All right. Then it goes on to say here, after the Old Testament period, Jewish apocalyptic writers began to call the Valley of Hinnom the entrance to hell. Right? Those are the gates to hell. The Valley of Hinnom, the gates to hell. Later, hell itself. And this is where that whole, so-called concept of the fable or myth of hell came from. All right? And then the so-called church fathers, which were Jake, use it and capitalized upon it. This is why I always make reference to the movie Robin Hood with Jamie Foxx, when the dude that played in Kingsman had the interaction with the Archbishop, and he was speaking about instilling fear, right? And he said, the Archbishop said, fear, the greatest arsenal in God's weaponry, or the greatest weapon in God's arsenal. This is why the church created hell. If you haven't seen that movie, go see it. And this is exactly why they created hell. That whole doctrine of hell, or fable, or myth of hell, because it was something that used to control people. All right, and Yahushua was using it as a warning of the future or final destruction that's coming upon this place. All right, so now when we go to 2 Chronicles 28, right, we're going to start at 1. The point is in verse 3, because this is Ahaz, right, which was the son, I believe he was the son of Jotham. Right, and when you go into the list, matter of fact, before we even go to that, let's go to it. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, but he did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord, like David his father. For he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and made also molten images to Baalim. Moreover, he burnt incense in the valley of the sons of Hinnom, and burnt his children in the fire. after the abomination of the heathen whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel, right? So that's what he did, right? Now, when we go to Matthew, which is the first time in the New Testament where the word hell appears, right? Yahushua spoke about that. All right. Let's read it. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother Rakah shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say thou fool shall be in danger of hell fire. And when we look at this word hell fire, right? And this is why there was an individual, Elder Pastor brought it out years back. That was a Jake. He was a pastor, and he loved his grandparents, but his grandparents were not into the church. And when they died, the sentiment is that they went to hell if they didn't accept sweet Jesus, right? So that prompted him to do research. And he researched the scriptures to see about this hell thing, and he came to the conclusion that it doesn't exist, that hell just represents the grave. And when he brought it out, a lot of his congregation left. See, because Jake don't want the truth. Their fear towards the Lord is taught by the precept of men. So if they start teaching the precepts of the Most High, they are ignorantly they're ignorant of the Most High's righteousness, and they'll flee away from that because they don't want to follow the Lord. They're programmed to follow man to their own destruction. So when we look up this word hellfire, the word fire is pur, or that's where you get the word pyromaniac, right? Which is a bugged out individual that likes to set fires. But when we go to the word hell, you have the word Gehenna. And even here it tells you that the root word goes back to the Hebrew origin, Gaya Hanam, which is the valley of Hinnom, right? And when we read the definition, it says hell is a place of the future punishment called Gehenna, or Gehenna of fire, because the destruction is coming. That's that lake of fire, the destruction. And it's going to be set ablaze. It's not going to be a fire that you start. You're going to put coals and you're going to put an accelerant upon it, put kerosene on it and start a fire, because the scriptures say a fire not blown is going to be created. And that fire not blown is going to be created by the missiles and by the lasers from the chariots, when Yahushua comes back. This is why Yahushua said, I am come to bring fire on the earth, and what will I if it be already kindled? He's going to put more fire on that fire. So that lake of fire was what John the apostle saw from the chariot itself. And the men that had gotten the victory, the Israelites that had gotten the victory, men and women, children, that had gotten the victory over the beast, that were looking down upon America being on fire and certain parts of the earth being on fire, but mainly America. That's where the main lake of fire is going to be. All right? That is what Yahushua was referring to when he said hellfire, meaning the judgment, the destruction at the end. It says this was originally the valley of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem, where the filth and dead animals of the city were cast out and burned. A fit symbol of the wicked and their future destruction. It has nothing to do with a place you go to burn in hell forever. It's a symbol of the future judgment that Yahushua was speaking about. That's why when we go here, it says that Ahaz burnt his children in the fire. And this is where that whole concept of burning animals, burning criminals, burning children came from. We go to the word burnt. Fire is ash, burnt is ba'ir. See? To burn, consume, kindle. So they burned their children in the fire, because this was the way that it was done in the ancient times. When you would sacrifice your children to Molech. This is why the Lord said that these practices are not supposed to be done by us. Learn not the way of the heathen. You see, but Jake didn't listen. Make sure when you go into the land, you don't do after the manner of the customs of the people, because their customs are vain. All right. Now, this right here was dealing with Ahaz, king of Judah. Now, I typed in the list of kings of Judah, right? Because this was a practice that was going on in Israel for a while. And it gives me a list of all the kings in Judah, beginning with King David. And we scroll down and we see Ahaz. This was around 735 to 715 BC. This is when he ruled. Then you had Hezekiah, which was a righteous king. Manasseh was wicked, but then he repented. You had Amon, and then you had Josiah, which Josiah came on the scene 640. This when he began to reign, roughly, circa. That was about 100 years later after this act was done, what we just read about, right? Now, when we look at Josiah, what did Josiah do? Besides, restoring Israel, he cleaned up all of Israel. He set up one of the greatest Passovers ever, that were ever done, and he cleaned up all of these practices that were going on back then. All right. And when we jump down, see, reforms under Josiah, he burnt down, all of these different altars and groves and all that stuff. And he brought restoration back to Israel. He brought that reconciliation, so to speak, between the Most High and Israel at the time. All right. So when we jump to the 10th verse, it says, and he defiled Topheth. All right. So now let's go to Topheth. He defiled Topheth, which is Thapath. Thapath means place of fire. A place in the southeast end of the valley of the son of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem. Okay. Then it says same as 8613, which 8613 is pretty much the same word, place of fire, So these were all synonymous with each other, and I'm pretty sure if you type in Topheth, map, it'll give you the area or location where all this was at. It says, and he defiled Topheth, meaning he destroyed it. He cleansed it. He cleaned it up, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. You see? So this is why Yahushua used this as a future judgment for this place, the place where that was going to burn. All right? It has nothing to do with a place you go and burn forever. Fire, ash. All right, because that's how they would do it. Now, when we go here to the, I typed in, just to see what they said, 2 Kings 23:10 commentary, how Elder Apostle Hart does it. I just wanted to see what they said. It says Topheth, an example, the burning place or hearth. And sometimes they say, because the so-called scholars are divided. Sometimes they say the word Topheth means burning, a place of fire, or they say it means like drums or something, playing the drums or something like that, right? If the word be rightly derived from the Persian toften, to burn, the Hebrew word, however, has been so modified as to suggest a derivation from to spit, so that the epithet would mean the abomination, so they got a whole bunch of stuff. But what I want to get is, here it says the valley of the children of Hinnom, elsewhere called the valley of the son of Hinnom, the valley of Hinnom, and it gives you scriptures. Simonides plausibly explained the word Hinnom as meaning shrieking or moaning, from the Arabic Hana, you know what, Salaki, I thought this was the right one. Let me just bear with me 1 second. There was one that just got straight to the point. Yeah, of course, now I can't find it. But anyways, it goes into pretty much a place where they would burn their children. For some reason, it's not coming up now. Yeah, but you know, when you do the research, you know, you could do the research yourself. You know, you find out that that's how they would burn the children to Molech. Just bear with me 1 second. And that's why you would see Molech, which was like a bull, standing upright, and between his legs there would be like a doorway, and that's where they would burn the children. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, let's see what this says here. How were the children sacrificed to Molech? He who brought his child, the priest would say that he is offering the greatest sacrifice. He would enter the innermost chamber and go kiss the Molech. The priest would then take the child and place it near the Molech. They would then bang with drums to drown out the cries. Let's see what else comes out. Come see how obsessed the nation was with idol worship that they were willing to do something so reprehensible, but in the future, says the Most High, I will remove your heart of stone. Yeah, I hate when they just get to the point, man. Right, here you got, matter of fact, you know what? Let's see if we can find an image. All right, this is a good one. See, this is what they would do. This is Molech, right? And see how this is where the hearth, this is where they would have the fire. And they would bring the children in there and burn them and then sacrifice them in there. All right, and that was the future judgment that was coming that Yahushua was speaking about. Because in Jeremiah 7, right, and 32, it says, therefore the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be called Tophet, nor the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. For they shall bury in Tophet till there be no place. So that was a symbol that Yahushua was using for the future judgment of the destruction, which we're fast approaching in these times. All right, so with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say Shalom.